Hey team, this is Danny White with the Mental Fitness Mastermind podcast presented by mentalfitness.care and the Athlete Mental Health Certification Program, where athletes are going to be helping athletes defeat mental health challenges in the game of life. Okay, so let me do a little housekeeping. The whole goal of the Mental Fitness Mastermind is to bring together a collective consciousness of current and former athletes, mental health professionals, sports psychologists, brands that deal with athletes, everybody that's in the athlete community and the athlete ecosystem. We're going to be trying to bring them together in one place so they can get information, they can get fed, they can get the help that they need. We can all stand together on this platform to defeat the mental health challenges that we face as athletes every day. Okay. And we all have a position to play, just like a team is made up of a bunch of individuals, but each play their own position. Our position is going to be the aggregator. We're going to put everything on one place so you can come in and find it easily. You can get connected with the right professional to help you if you need help. You can find community. So that's what we're going to be doing at the mentalfitness.care platform, the Mental Fitness Mastermind, and the Athlete Mental Health Certification Program. That's going to be the intellectual piece. That's the piece that we're going to be putting out there that's going to be equipping you to be able to handle these situations, to be able to make connections with professionals to help you get through that next fight. Okay. So if you're a professional in the mental health industry, you have a position on our team. If you're a sports psychologist, you have a position on our team. If you're obviously a current or a former athlete, we want you on the team. If you're a brand or your business, like I said, if you zero in on athletes, we want to talk to you. All right. So it's pretty simple. That's the way it's going to run down. Now it's time to meet one of your teammates, Kemba Samuel. All right. Let's take it away. Tell everybody who you are and let's get this party started.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Danny. I think it's an awesome just platform that your wellness. That's what you guys will find out. So as an athlete, I just say that I grew up playing athletics and playing it at a competitive level up until I was 20 years old. And it was at the age of 14 that I got injured. That was my first injury. It was a hamstring pull. I played soccer and I played for Ontario, which is one of the provinces up in Canada. Okay. And so that was my first, I'm going to say, major thing that it was awesome. And then I had to have knee surgery. And the knee surgery wasn't so much that it was sports related directly. It was just me being competitive in a class, in a gym class, and you're just overly competitive and then you end up having knee surgeries. But I got past that. And that was, it was good stuff. And then I had one more hurdle, and that hurdle I didn't get past in regards to being able to maintain being as competitive as I was. When I was in my senior year, I was being scouted by a few universities in the States. I was a hurdler, so I guess I should say I played soccer and I was a sprinter. The 1, the 2, and the hurdles. I'll give a little shout out to Andre DeGrasse, who won the 200 today. It's awesome to watch athletes progress and get to where they are. So that's me as an athlete, as a person who has gone past that. I used athletics to really spur me on. Physically. And then I'm also a mindset and transition coach. I help athletes transition from high school into college and from college to pro, just making the mindset shifts that they need to make in order to be successful where they are. So that's me in a nutshell.
So true. And I tell you what, that transition coach, that's something that wasn't around too many years ago. And a lot of people don't realize, athletes do. I mean, when I say don't realize, again, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for everybody. What I'm saying is I didn't realize, that there was that big a need until I got out of college and sports dominated my life. That's all I thought about. And then all of a sudden I'm getting into the business world. I'm thinking, now what? I didn't have anybody to, just coach me and offer the services like what you do, Kemba. You offer that insight as an athlete, so you understand where they're at, and then you offer that insight into the professional arena and kind of get them prepared, because again, you come off the field as the captain of the football team, you know what I mean? You're celebrated, and then you go into the boardroom and you're on the bench, so that transition affects your psyche, affects your mental health. And that's why when we put together the curriculum of the athlete mental health certification program, one of the key components of that is transition. And we're going to be bringing in professionals like yourself to actually steer and guide, and because we got to address that. That's a big deal for athlete mental health. What do you think?
I think it is really important. And I think high school athletes who are, they're at the top of their game in their state or in their province. And now they go and they're going to meet up with a whole bunch of other athletes. And maybe you're not going to be number one,
Right.
and you're accustomed to being number one.
That's true.
And you got to make the transition to playing the supporting cast. Maybe when you were, like I said, you were the go-to person
Right.
on the field or on the court. So
Yeah.
that transition, and then also transitioning in the classroom. I didn't mention, that's the other thing that I've done for years, is helped students, massage therapist. I have taught for 13 years. And so
Nice.
I've combined what I do. That transitioning of students is really where I zero in with athletic transition, my own having to go through it myself, and make that transition as an athlete, and not being able to play, because that's another thing that a lot of times people don't recognize. If it's taken away from you before you were expecting it, how do you
yeah.
transition to the next phase?
Yeah.
It's hard enough when you prepare. So
That's such a good point. I really, now that you bring it up, I cannot see past it. It's true. When, it's one thing, like when you graduate as a senior, you know what I mean? I don't know why the NFL didn't want a 175-pound defensive player that runs a 4.8. I was so slow.
of course not.
I can't believe I didn't get
you didn't
drafted.
realize.
I was expecting to get drafted. I was waiting for the phone call that entire night and never came. But what are the things that you're prepared literally as a senior going through my college year? I knew that was it. So I was prepared. And like what you were talking about, if you get an injury, sustain
Yes.
an injury, and then all of a sudden, boom, your career's over. And then what happens? You can go into a dark place as an athlete. So I really appreciate the services you offer as a transition coach.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be able to do it.
You're doing good. You found your lane, and the world's a better place because of it. So now let's talk about you. What was I know the injury was the big deal. So what was the biggest mental health challenge, the mental fitness challenge that came along with that? I mean, literally kind of just dig deep for a second. And what was the thing that you had to battle the most? Was it the feeling of abandonment from the identity? What was it?
I think the biggest thing that I had to figure out was who I was going to be outside of sport.
Identity.
Up until that time, identity. Up until that time, I had been always known as an athlete, always excelled at it.
Right.
I was great at other things, but I don't think I even been doing that for so long.
Right.
And just trying to figure out who was I going to be. So even going into first year university without going to be on a soccer field or be in the track, not training, I gained a lot of weight. I wasn't as active. There were a lot of shifts that I ended up having to make.
Right.
But that was the hard part. You didn't have the team anymore.
Right.
I tell people, even when you run an individual like a 100, you're still a part of a training team.
You're right. Absolutely. 100%.
What I was going to do and how I was going to be without the team. Yeah.
So the identity crisis is a big thing. And, that's really common. I mean, I had it. I mean, that's one of the things that I had, because, no longer did people look up to me in terms of from an athlete's perspective. I had all of that. And then I came into the business world, and I didn't even hardly know how to tie a tie. You know what I mean? And they're looking,
Right.
I'm not used to not being in the limelight, so the identity
Yes.
crisis. Then it took me forever to realize that, hey, I've got to rebuild. I'm more than just that athlete. And that's the thing with the Simone Biles situation. Again, everybody's been talking about that. And I've kind of, been a little bit reserved on expressing too much on it. But, everybody looks at her from an identity situation. They see her as an athlete. And then when she got hurt, their mind can't process that. What? She's human?
Yes.
So that identity right there shows you, they put that identity on her and throw it on her. So she's dealing with it herself, but the public is throwing it on her from an identity shift. And it's just not good.
It's crazy because you think and we forget that others are human, just like you said.
Right.
So the identity's been put on her. And I think I'm so proud of her for recognizing where she was and for taking that space, and the strength that it takes to come out and to say what she said. Like, listen, I'm not in the right frame of mind to be able to do what I need to do. And if I go out there, I'm going to be a detriment. I'm going to get injured. How powerful to know, this isn't the time for me. I applaud her for it.
And it's wonderful if people want to know how great of an athlete she is and how strong her mind is. Now, let me just throw this out there as a thought experiment. Think about this. Part of being a gymnast, I'm not a gymnast. Obviously, you can look at me and tell I couldn't do anything. But I do know athletes, and I do know the body, and I know, I'm a martial artist, so I know when I'm jumping up and doing a back, crescent kick, or I know where my body is in the air. But you think about this. To know where she knows her body so much, and she knows her mind so much, that she's able to survey everything. And because like the quickie or the twisties where she didn't know where she's at in the air, she realized that through her body. She realized, because she's constantly surveying and monitoring her whole body. And she goes, what? We got a red flag going on here. This is a mental issue. I need to step aside. Now, look at you. How great is that? You talk about true talent, is not only knowing how to guide her body through all of that. She knew how to guide her mind enough to step back under all of the pressure, under the most extreme, the headlines, the lights, everything. The bright lights are on her. It's the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such an awareness. Such an awareness.
That's the word
and
I'm
then
for.
I think just the wonderfulness to also know when she could come back, and she did come back, but she came back, I want to say, totally for her. Wasn't expecting to win. I read what she said, and then won a bronze. And she says it's gonna, because they always think it's just being first, but it's what she went through to get it.
Beautiful.
They don't see all of that you go through, right?
No.
And that's something that athletes recognize in other athletes.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful.
This is great.
That's the beautiful part of the Athlete Mental Health Certification Program. And the RACE action plan, the last one, RACE, is empathy. And, the whole thing that makes this program so beautiful for us and for athletes is because athletes, I can empathize with hurting my knee. I can empathize with running hurdles. I was very slow, but I did run hurdles at one point. I was so slow. I was more of a high jumper, but I can empathize with you. I know what you're going through. If you sat here and said, hey, I fell in the hurdles, I know, because I did it a lot. But the point is, athletes can empathize with other athletes. And that's why this program is so important. So how did you defeat that challenge? I mean, it was an identity crisis. How did you overcome it, or how are you keeping it at bay?
Can you ask that one more time? Because I didn't quite hear you.
Okay, good. So how did you defeat that challenge? The identity crisis was your biggest mental health challenge as an athlete. How did you defeat it? How did you overcome?
So I was, at the time, I was 18 when I stepped into that crisis. And I'll say the road to defeating it took a few years. I went through, like I said, what I would say is I definitely took stress out on eating and not having enough activity. I finally reached out to an old coach of mine and just said, I'm really, really lost.
Yeah.
And he had known me for 9 years of coaching me. And his thing was, you're lost because you're not doing any sport. And what would it look like to play a part in the sporting world?
There you go.
And for me, I think I really found my identity by asking myself, what could I do with what I knew? Ended up becoming a massage therapist, and it really directed my path, that it didn't have to end because I couldn't sprint over the hurdles anymore, that I could still use all of the talent, all of the knowledge that I had in another way and still be involved in sport. And I think that's why I'm still involved in sport.
So smart. What can you do with what you knew? I like that that's a great phrase, for everyone. So that's how you defeated that challenge. And so I can kind of hear the segue, but the next question is, what advice would you give your doppelganger? If you have someone out there that's just like you, another Kemba Samuel out there, that's struggling the same thing. And she said, what advice can you give me? What's that?
So the first thing I would say is, you're not alone. You think you are,
right?
But there are others who are going through it or have gone through it.
Recognize.
So the first thing to defeating it is to reach out,
yes,
honestly. And usually your coaches do have some idea. They've known you for quite a few years,
right?
So they usually know who you are, and they have experience with others and have had experience with many.
Right.
So I feel like just telling athletes, reach out. That's the number one thing. Whether it's a coach, whether it's to speak to a therapist, whether it's another athlete, it doesn't really matter so much, I think, who. I think the real thing is that you've got to get it off your chest. You've got to stop thinking that you're in through. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is to definitely start thinking beyond the end of your sport, in the sense that it doesn't have to end. You can figure out ways, whether you become a coach, whether you end up taking on younger kids and teaching them. Your sporting life doesn't have to end. And the moment that you be from here, it changes everything. So yeah.
So great. Such great advice. I mean, you couldn't pick two better answers. Those are beautiful. Great advice. Thank you so much for that. And so now, what's your daily mental fitness workout? I mean, we all have a physical thing that we do. Sometimes I say we all, sometimes I don't. Let's be honest. I'm not wearing a blue shirt because it looks good on me. I'm wearing it because it hides a lot. So what's your daily mental fitness routine?
So my daily mental fitness routine, is I start quite early in the morning. And I get out when it's really quiet. I like to meditate. It is something that I find really beneficial for me. So I spend about 30 minutes just being quiet, being silent. I do it with music. I do guided sometimes. But for myself, meditation has played a really big part in me, because my mind's always going a mile a minute, coming up with something else to help somebody else with. So I need to be still and be quiet, and it starts early in the day. And the second thing is I'm big on affirmations.
Okay, good.
So whatever obstacles come up, I find I create affirmations, and they are what I tell myself anytime that mental block comes up. And at the end of every meditation, I kind of start my day with that. And then I end my day with sleep, just with being grateful for the day, and looking for 2 or 3 things that I've done that day or gotten through that day that I can be grateful for, to remind myself that I'm still making progress.
You're absolutely making progress. I follow you on LinkedIn. That's kind of how I found you. By the way, those were some powerful tips that you just gave. I started following you on LinkedIn a few months ago, and I really appreciate the professional content that you have. I appreciate the videos that you put out. I appreciate, the business that you have. You're a class act. You're a first-rate professional, and I'm glad that I've gotten to know you. So the last question is, okay, what is the one thing, a guilty pleasure, or the one thing in the locker room? We all have teammates, and you know what I mean? That inside joke is one of the cool things about being on a team. What's the one thing? We all have things that we kind of hide, and if our teammates give us a hard time about it, what's the one thing that if all of the world or your teammates knew about you behind closed doors, that they would just laugh and go, "Come on, Kemba, you cannot really." What's that guilty pleasure?
Makes me laugh, and that's why I do it.
What is it again? You
I
cut
have
out. I'm
this
sorry.
thing that I've done. Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was saying that I have this thing that I do. I don't know if it would make my teammates laugh, but it makes me laugh.
Okay, good.
I have a really great time taking pictures of making faces. So it's become a thing that I do. I make faces. Sometimes I send them out. Sometimes I don't send them out.
Yeah.
And it's been a thing for a while. And it's funny how when you, after I stopped training as much, because I think it used to be something that started after training. You trained till you almost puke, and I started making faces and started taking pictures of those faces, and then it became a thing, but I never shared it.
That's
and
interesting.
Recently, I started taking pictures, even me and my son, with crazy faces.
That's fun.
So they would probably say, "Really, Kemba? She's always so serious. There's no way she wouldn't do that."
That's so funny. That's so good.
My
Hey, listen,
they wouldn't know. They all know I'm an ice cream eater. So
okay, I got you. That's hey, listen, your crazy faces. I can see that being an Instagram page. Nothing but athletes making crazy faces. You know what I mean? And some of those crazy faces are, I seen this this post on LinkedIn. It showed the race getting finished, and there's the Kenyan runners that were standing up running, and then all over around them there was all these scattered bodies of the other racers that just kind of passed out and laying all there. They go, "Ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce you to the Kenyan runners."
Serious sometimes, and so we got to make fun of ourselves.
Yeah, make fun of ourselves and laugh. Hey,
that's how it started.
You've made me laugh today. You've gave me a lot of good insight, and I know that the viewers are going to get that. I'm so proud to know you. I'm so happy to be working with you. So thank you for coming on today. I want you to have a great day. And tonight, when you're laying down and thinking about all the good things that happened to you today and that we're thankful for, I'm thankful for you coming on here, okay?
And I am thankful for you having me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, that's it, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, Kemba.
All right. You too. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. That was awesome. Such a great personality.